Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for another edition of Coffee with the Kingpins. I don't know if we're drinking coffee today, but I am so excited and honored to have a good old friend. We have to discuss how long it's been. Miss Aleta St. James, and I'm sure many of you know of her. She has been all over the press and all over the world. But anyway, Aleta, welcome. So great to see you.
Oh, Firuze, this is amazing because we haven't seen each other in a while, and it
Yes,
feels like we never were parted, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like we're right back connected again, the way we were
absolutely.
years ago?
Yeah.
So that was nice.
You
And
know,
thank you so much for having me on your podcast because that really means a lot to me, and I feel very honored. And let's see what
absolutely.
happens today. I'm all excited to see what else is possible with us together talking.
Absolutely. Well, it's my pleasure, and this has been a long time coming.
Right.
And you've been busy. You were traveling the world. You were in Palm Beach, then Italy, but now you are back in New York City. Now,
Exactly.
the interesting thing is, I don't remember who introduced me to you because I was also one of your clients for many, many years. We did energy work together and then we became close friends. I remember being at your home a couple of Thanksgiving with your family. I mean, really, really close. And yeah, the parties you had. Anyway, it was wonderful, wonderful times. And I think maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I was visiting New York, we went out and had lunch.
We did
Yes, yes.
at the Greek Kitchen, right, right down the street from where my studio is. Yeah,
Right.
we had a lot of. I don't even remember who connected us.
I don't. I think was it Eric Rutan maybe? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right,
Uh,
but the thing that was really wonderful about our relationship is I was able to help you through different things that you were going through, but there was like an affinity of who you are, who I am, how it worked together, and how I could serve your next level of what you want to create in your life, which is really interesting. I mean, now you're down in Florida, correct? Is
yeah,
that, yeah.
I
So
live in
there's a whole new
Sarasota on
life.
the West Coast. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So it's really quite interesting the journey you went on and the journey I'm still on. And we'll keep going. I mean, I'm going to live to 120, so I can give you those secrets of
I
how to
listened to
do
your
that.
podcast actually about the green laser and 130, 150. Maybe you can push it up to 150.
What do you mean, years old?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now listen, this is interesting. When the kids, people when they look, I was 57 when I gave birth to the twins. So naturally, naysayers would say to me, "What are you going to look like when, you're in your 70s and they're, in their 20s and it's going to be horrible and you're going to be decrepit." And I said to them, "Better then than I do now."
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I mean, I'm leveling up. I mean, I'm not considered old and decrepit and in the corner by any means. I mean, Susan Summers, she passed away, but she would always say that. She said, "I'm not going to go crawling into the corner. I'm going to live." But on an interview, the guy asked me the same thing, and I said, "I'm going to live to 120." And he said, "Oh, well, I'm in that club too." And I went, "You're in a club?" And he said, "Yeah, the 120 Club. There is actually a 120 Club." And he said, "It's in the Bible that you can live to 120."
Yeah.
So I'm earmarked for 120 doing all my work, which is transformational energy, light work, emotional connection, and releasing trauma. And honestly, Firuze, I mean, I'm 77. I've been doing this 50 plus years. I started out in a show business career.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
I was going to go back to that because I would really love to have you kind of go step by step for the viewers. I know everybody knows you, but really getting in depth about, where were you born? How did you begin? And so on, and what led you to do what you're doing today?
All right. The interesting thing is my second book, my first book is Life Shift, like Go and Live Your Dream.
Right.
The second book is The Ageless Factor. And I actually go into that from the roots of my Italian grandmother leaving Bari, Italy because of Mussolini. And when I went there, 2 weeks ago, I just came back last week
Right.
and I jumped on a train and went to Washington, D.C. So when they say that you're, 77 and, it's over, forget it. It's not. You
Right.
can make it just begin, all right?
But
But I
take
started to
example.
give them a whole thing about why I got to where I am today.
Mhm.
And one of the chapters is that, and this is the detour that leads to the destination in people's lives. I was acting on stage when I was 6. My cousin Jimmy Lonegro got me on stage. He was a child star in Chicago, which is where I was born.
Mhm.
And so I always wanted to be the actress and on stage and all of this stuff. However, when I went to school and I was in St. Brendan's, John Sexton, who was in the future from when I was in high school, he became like the president of NYU.
Mhm.
He had this debate team and this drama team, and I was part of the debate and drama, and I won the national championship of the entire country for acting. So we thought, oh, it was going to be a shoo-in for me to go to Catholic U or Carnegie Tech or Yale or any of the big schools for drama.
Right.
However, that was the year they changed the SATs. And my brain doesn't go like that. But I had trained myself to answer all of those questions and blah, blah, blah. And they changed the test.
Oh God.
So I didn't do well on it. So because I didn't do well on the SATs, I didn't get the scholarships. So
Mhm.
then I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I want to study drama. I went to Queen's College for a little bit. A director had seen me and said, you know what, you have to go to England because England you'll really get trained well.
Right.
So I dropped out of college. I worked for 8 months. I saved my money, foot coat and melding and advertising. I went to England. I auditioned. And at that time, they were only taking 2 Americans out of maybe 500 people in each school that would try to get in. And I was always the second. There would be the first one and then I'd be the second. So I wound up for the whole summer in working for Foot Cone and Belding there in England. And one of the producers who was into the theater and everything said, why don't you go to East 15 Acting School? Joan Littlewood's theater workshop, blah, 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 blah. I bet you would love it. They would love you. And sure enough, right when the whole thing was going to start in September, I auditioned and I got in. So my whole thing is that when you think you're having a detour and there's obstacles, you just keep on going. So one of my main things when I was out there with the pregnancy and, giving birth is people would say, you can't do it. And I would always say, just watch me. So I've always adopted that idea, that belief system is just watch me. And that's what I put in people that come to work with me is like, don't give up, just watch me and keep going. And sometimes that detour that says no will lead you to a better destination because if I was not in English drama school in London at Maggie Berry's, Victor Spinetti was the director and he had gone to, Joan Littlewood's theater workshop. He had worked with her. He was the director of the Amsterdam production of Hair. And when I auditioned, and I could sing, I could dance, I could do whatever. He cast me as the lead. If I wasn't in England, I would have never got the lead on Broadway. I just wouldn't have. I just know because connections, agents in this. Right then, I stepped right into the lead and I was there for about a year and a half. When I came back, I wound up directing it in in Norfolk, Virginia. It was a theater there,
Mhm.
and it was great. I directed it. I played Sheila again, and I directed other plays because of it. So it started my directing career.
Right.
At 26, I was directing star packages like Pernell Roberts, Robert Forrester, Robert Crawford, normally I wouldn't have ever gotten the chance. But so it went like that.
Right.
So often people feel like, oh my God, it didn't work out the way I thought. You always ask yourself, what else is possible?
Right.
And then your brain goes, oh, you can do this. Or somebody comes in, like opportunity. That's the one thing. When I wake up in the morning, I always go, all right, what miracles and excitement are going to happen today? What opportunities are going to come into my life today? So that you don't feel like, all right, another day, the bills, I'm having, kids are all in college, yada, 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 you don't do that. Because then wherever you set your focus and your emotional container is what starts to happen in terms of your ability to make things expand or to keep current or to look at what else is possible. You
Right.
have to actually set your mind to that place.
Mhm.
So like today I thought, okay, what great opportunities are going to come in today? And I had four of them.
Good.
Before, that's why we were late for this. Because there were four different things that came in that I had to handle right away
Right.
that were going to take everything to the next level. So my point is, it's like the ageless factor is all about living from that point of consciousness
Right.
and doing the nutritional things and detoxing and not having inflammation in your body. But you also have to have the mental, spiritual, emotional, mind body connection so that there's light and a whole different expansion in terms of what else is possible in your life as you're getting younger, right? And not like, okay, it's all over. Let me just, retire. Let me just forget it. And then that's when you get old. That's when your body goes,
To
okay.
really trust the universe, because as you said, when something doesn't work out, it's basically saying that they're detouring you to something better, because we
Right,
don't always know exactly what is in the highest good for us. But the
right.
other thing is, I feel, and it's great that we're doing this interview, because I feel that source energy is on a daily basis getting stronger, meaning that we as human beings have become more and more as manifestors. So it's really, really important what we think. And the other thing with aging and all that, it's really your mindset, because it's all a number, and also social programming as far as, you're 60, you're old. That's not the case. We see so many people who are in their 80s and they're still functioning fabulously and doing and creating beautiful things.
Totally. And I never think of 77 as any kind of age at all. I just, 77, it's a number.
Right,
So biologically, I'm 57,
right.
with the blood work and all the different kind of things that I do. Because I go to Mexico and I do precision medicine
Fabulous.
with Dr. Frank, and we have a clinic there in Cabo, and I do the regenerative spiritual connection and the releasing of trauma,
Mhm.
and he does the medical stuff, which is the stem cells, the exosomes, all the detoxing that you need to do. And in conjunction, then we level people up to a higher level of consciousness, because you see in your mind, mitochondria in the cells, it has a consciousness. And
Absolutely.
if it's negative and if it's all full of toxins, whether emotional, mental, physical, that's your consciousness.
Yeah.
So you can be saying as many affirmations as you want, but you're vibrating to that low frequency.
Yeah.
So once you release that by detoxing emotionally, physically, and mentally, and then putting the higher frequencies in, then
Mhm.
you actually elevate, and then you can go, okay, my life is just beginning. It doesn't matter if I'm 77, it doesn't matter if I'm 65, it doesn't matter if I'm 50. I'm
Right.
going to have a whole other chapter of my life that's going to be happening and vibrant and coming from passion and purpose. That's another thing, Firuze, and you do this all the time. I mean, you're passionate about what you're doing right now, for sure. And you've always been passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's a passion and purpose that, drives the train. It just does.
Yeah.
If you don't have a passion and purpose, and it doesn't mean that you're saving the world, you're finding the cure for AIDS, or you're doing what Firuze or what I'm doing, you could be just having a passion for getting up, walking, seeing your grandchildren, getting into a new relationship. So, just it's really funny because women start to think they age out at a certain age, and then that's the end of the relationship, which is not true at all.
But that's
Now they
social
have,
programming because women have always been suppressed.
yeah,
You know,
it's called gap dating, Jersey. I gap dating, which means there are women that are in a certain age range. I'm one of them that can go out with younger men in their 30s or their 40s, and it's called gap dating.
I thought
And
it was
there's
called
more and
couples.
more, yeah, there's more and more evidence to that it works. And it's interesting. I went to Italy, one of my clients, I helped her manifest her husband, who's definitely her soulmate.
Hmm.
She's Indian, she had this huge Indian wedding. It lasted 3 days. It was gorgeous. She's gorgeous. And nobody would ever think that she had a problem in terms of connecting with a soulmate, but she did. And she overcame it. And which I said, because I spoke at the ceremony for her,
Right.
is I helped her manifest this. And she certainly gave me a lot of credit for it. But look at the wedding she manifested. 137 people in the beautiful Lake Como. It was like out of Bollywood. It was amazing, fireworks and the whole thing. So she took it to the next level. And basically, that's the whole thing with understanding that you don't have to get stuck. She could have gotten stuck and said, oh, these last three relationships didn't work, blah, 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 blah. But she came in, she released them. What else is possible? We thought about all the traits that she needed. And then she magnetically attracted this guy, totally perfect for her, totally wonderful. And there it was, this extraordinary wedding that I was lucky enough that I could attend and see the fruits of what we put together.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about your book, your first book, Life Shift. When was it published? I heard it's the on New York's bestseller list.
Well, it went into the national
Congratulations.
bestseller list, Life Shift.
Okay.
The thing that's really interesting about Life Shift is I wrote the book proposal while I was pregnant.
Hmm. I
And
remember.
right? Okay. And it was, I had to get it done before I gave birth, blah, 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 blah. And I did. However, once I gave birth, then Simon and Schuster naturally wanted to sign me as the book deal because I was the second largest story in 2004
Yeah.
internationally because nobody had given birth to twins the way I did at 57.
I remember you were all over the press. You were actually on the cover of, was it US? I mean, there is a magazine that no longer exists. I think US
US
News.
Today,
Yeah, you
News
something like
something,
that. Yeah, yeah.
the New York Post.
I know.
That was the worst picture of me on the New York Post. Oh my God. But anyway, we got past that. But I had like what was it, 125 reporters that
Mm,
came to Mount Sinai, and we had a press conference. I mean, it was off the charts crazy.
yeah,
And my brother, who's Curtis Lewa,
yeah,
who's running for mayor now in New York City, was there. I mean, it was like, and I never expected it. I just wanted to have children.
yeah.
And people would always say to me, when are you going to start having children? Because I'd always say, oh, I'm going to have twins, blah, 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 blah. Then about 49, I thought, maybe I should start, right? So it took me some years to deal with wanting to do it naturally, my own eggs, because my grandmother gave birth to my mother at 54,
Yeah.
but she had 13 kids. My mother was the last of 13. I never had children before, so it's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
So I couldn't for 3 times. I had miscarriages. And then I decided, all right, do I want children with my own genetics or do I want to bring in the children that I could feel were around me? And when I deal with women and help them get pregnant, when they're having difficulties, though, most of the time they'll say, I just feel like these children want to come in.
Right.
They're in your energy field. They do want to come in. So you just have to figure out how we're going to bring them in, with where you're at biologically and the different things that you need to help support that.
Yeah.
And so I did. And, I
I
had these.
remember visiting you a couple of times because the doctor had said you had to stay in bed. So
You bet.
everything was in the
Exactly.
bedroom.
Yeah, but I'm so lucky because I could work. I don't have to run up and down that, train station steps, or
Yeah,
I can work sitting down. And that's what I worked all the way to the day that I was going to give birth.
yeah.
I was, that's it, hard work. And then the next day I couldn't, because I had to be at the hospital at what, 6:30 in the morning getting ready.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And the doctor was great, Dr. Shear. And Dr. Miller was my fertility doctor, and Dr. Shear, brought them into the world, and they were like
How old are the twins now?
20. They're 20.
Yeah.
Francesca is going to Dean College, and she's studying theater arts.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and in the beginning, when I always had her in Lucy Moses and, all these theater workshops when she was little. And I would always have to give her like notes. I'd go to the rehearsal and I'd say, Francesca, you need to do da 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 da. And she would go, Mother, you don't know what you're talking about. Meanwhile, yes, I do. So we would have the biggest fight before she would go on stage. And then she'd go on stage and she'd be brilliant, brilliant. And I just knew it was in her. Now I don't have to do that. She's got it. I go and watch her performances at Dean. I don't need to say anything to her. She's got it. She's beautiful. She's wonderful. I'm sure she's going to be a superstar. And
Fantastic.
Gian is like this amazing, savant when it comes to trains and knowing how to put things together. He's studying, mechanics, and somehow we're going to get him into the MTA. It's not that easy. But he can sit with professionals at the MTA. Like there was my brother
Yeah.
and the head of the MTA at the time, Joe Loda, at my father's funeral. And Gian must have been about 11. And he started to talk to them, and he knew more about the trains and these hidden stations than they did, which is, my brother was started out in the trains,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So it was really, we were laughing, but that's how he is. And a lot of the kids now are like that. But so he's moving into that direction. And, when you have a twin, and she's a girl, so usually the girls are ahead,
Right.
he's going to find his way. And once he finds his way, he's just going to take off like a shot. So
Absolutely.
I
So
know that.
let's, it was very interesting because I saw a video when you were pregnant that you and Curtis were being interviewed. Now, that was really interesting. Talk a little bit about Curtis because what's the group that he started? It was the Angels.
Okay, so Curtis is 6 years younger than I am.
Hmm.
Doesn't always look like that lately because he's been in the streets and pretty beat up, right? I haven't had that lifestyle. But anyway, I prayed for him from like 3 years to when I was 6. Prayed. I want my brother coming, etc. And I was in Catholic boarding school at the time when he was born.
Right.
And when he was born, I knew when he was born. And I said to Mother Annunziata, I know my brother's being born right now. And of course, in the Bronx, right? I was in Ursuline Academy in the Bronx, and he was born there. And then she said, no, actually, sorry, he was born in Brooklyn. All right. Then my mother took him to pick me up because I would go every weekend home.
Uh-huh.
And Mother Annunziata took Curtis from her arms, went into the chapel, and put him on the altar in the Bronx and dedicated him to mankind. And he must have been a month old.
Wow.
Can you imagine? And that's where Curtis started the Guardian Angels.
Yeah, the Guardian Angels.
Yeah, he was working as a manager in McDonald's,
Right.
and he had started the Magnificent 13 to go into the subways because at that time, remember, Firenze, there was like so much crime. It's a million times worse now than it was then.
Yeah.
But he thought, like, how are we going to make it better? We'll have a civilian patrol. It's not a vigilante, but in numbers, there's strength.
Right.
So if somebody sees 13 people in red berets, they're not going to start trouble, and they didn't.
Right.
And they went into the subway, and the rest is history.
Right.
And that's going to be in my second book as well. Like the beginnings, I was there with him.
Right.
I went into the subways. I helped him with the guardian angels, and I also helped do Angels in the Park,
Right,
which was a big fundraiser at the Mansion, so that we could bring angels into Central Park,
right,
and they would have dirt bikes, and they would be able to patrol. And so anything like that, it was always supportive for Curtis. And the last time he ran for mayor, I was Democrats for Sliwa
yeah,
because he's running on the Republican. And now he's really gaining momentum and he's dealing with the business community and he's dealing with all the different communities to make everybody feel safe because that's his whole thing,
right,
safety.
right,
Whether it's, on the ground with all the stuff that's going on now, which is off the charts dangerous,
right,
or it's financial or it's whatever, so that
right,
everybody in New York can feel that they have a quality of life.
yeah,
I mean, with this whole last, administration, so many people left. We lost $14.6 billion in tax revenue
right,
last year.
right,
So how do you keep the city going when you don't have any money?
yeah.
So anyway, so
I mean,
I'm
he did such an amazing job. I remember, I mean, I left in 2012. I mean, New York, I used to take the subway at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then COVID happened. And my
right.
God, I was there for a business event. When was it, last year, for 3 days? It was kind of in and out. And my friends who live there said, don't you dare take the subway. So I was Ubering all over the place.
Yeah,
Basically, I stayed pretty much, but I wanted to see friends and stuff. But it was crazy. So thank you, Curtis,
yeah.
all you do. And I hope that, because I actually was one of his supporters, and interestingly enough, I was going to an acupuncturist. I don't know how it came up. And I really don't know how it came up, but somehow he found out that I knew you. So I don't know if you remember, he wanted to get in touch because he was with Curtis for a period of time before he became an acupuncturist.
What was his name?
I don't remember right now, but yeah.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. He lives in Sarasota. He's an acupuncturist and he's a homeopathic acupuncturist,
Yeah,
doctor. Yeah, I don't remember.
I know. I remember who you're
Them
talking
up together, but I don't know how it came up that he found out that I knew you, and then he said, "Can you send a message?" So
about. Right.
6 degrees of separation.
Separation, for sure. It's a small world. Talk about synchronicity.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, well, that part we'll discuss later, but I didn't remember because you remember I've been into astrology for a long time, but in the last 10 years I've studied Vedic. And you and I have a past life connection.
For
And
sure.
yeah, we have Venus conjunct. I have my Rahu conjunct your Venus. You have your Jupiter conjunct my Saturn. So there's
Wow.
a lot of, yeah, connections. So there are no coincidences. But I felt like I wanted to really get in touch because of the time, this period that we're going through. There are more people waking up, there are more people becoming aware of what does it mean to raise your vibration, what does it mean to cleanse your mental body, because your mental body is what affects your physical body. And that's why when you're talking about age, it's not just about your age, your mental, your consciousness, your thoughts, everything affects how your body reacts and rejuvenates. So I wanted to kind of get into asking you, what changes have you seen with the people that you work with? Because you work with women and men as well. And what are some of the golden nuggets that you can share as far as the changes or the elevation, or whatever you've been able to see?
You're absolutely right now. Part of that is that there's a lot of content on the internet.
Mm.
There's Joe Dispenza, there's, meditations you can listen to, uh, there's Brian Scott, there's Louise Hay.
Yeah.
He's no longer with us in the physical. Even Wayne Dyer, he endorsed my book, but he's not with us, in the physical anymore. But people can get access to information. So many times when people come to me, it's because you can have the information and you can say the affirmations and you can do all that. And they understand that there's a spiritual element and that they have blocks in their mental and emotional, bodies, and the emotional and the physical are the densest to shift. But they don't quite know what is happening in their subconscious. They know that that's a block, and you really can't get that off of a meditation or a talk or an activation. You need to come to somebody like myself who can actually see it in the cells. Now, I was born with a gift, and it usually runs in the family. And my dad was used in World War II to go behind the scenes for his psychic abilities to find out where the soldiers were, that were taken prisoner. And he could track where they were, and then they would get saved and taken out of that situation. So I had the ability when I was born to understand what was going on with animals, how to heal them, what people were feeling in a different way than my dad. And then I developed it.
Right.
So and I work, now there's been a download, Firuze, of very high frequency energy for the last 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
So there's times where I'm meditating from 1 a.m. to 6, because between 3 and 5 is a very powerful time. A lot of gurus are up at that time. The Dalai Lama, he meditates for 5 hours during that time. And it's not like, you can say, oh, you need 8 hours sleep. Well, when you get these downloads, I don't.
Yeah.
So I really don't. So if I'm up for 2 hours, I'm fine. I hit the ground running. I'm dealing with the kids. I have a full-time practice. And I'm always doing, different kind of things because it's higher spiritual energy that's coming in. Now with that, I'm up leveled to be able to help the people that want to come in and get to a higher level of manifesting. So the big word, like 21 years ago when I wrote Life Shift, and it pubbed in 2005, but I wrote it was Life Shift, Let Go and Live Your Dream. Mm-hmm. So it's about releasing and letting go and receiving. And now a lot of the messages are coming like that, all right? That in order to hit these higher levels of consciousness, you need to understand that there are different levels of reality. There are parallel lives that we're living on. Mm-hmm. And your future life of happiness with a great relationship and a career and etc. can actually be happening in your field. Right. And not in your third dimensional understanding. Now, most people at one point could never understand that, but the Greek philosophers did. They would talk about parallel lives in their own way. But once you understand that, and that's what's on the internet with somebody like, Brian Scott and even Joe Dispenza, who'll talk about that, then you can actually move into aligning with that higher frequency where there's no limitation, where you have a fabulous relationship, where there's no financial restrictions of scarcity and struggle, and you can actually feel that you're living in that vibrational rate. And when you're in your imagination, not so much in your mind, but in your imagination, the brain can't tell the difference between real and unreal. Then all of a sudden you start to bring all the energies into being able to manifest that. And so manifest. Right. Firuze, I've done a lot. I went to India. I studied, in the southern temples of India with the fertility temples and everything else. The Hindus, in their, thousands of years that they've been working in their energy fields, understand those frequencies, because somebody like Babaji, who is 2,000 years old, because when I was young, I went to one of the temples in LA, Muktananda's place, and I saw a picture and I said, how old is that guru? And I said, he looks like 40. How old is he? And they said, he's 800 years old. So he's able to regenerate himself. And now I found out that he's really 2,000 years old. And so if he wants to reincarnate, he'll come back down and form a physical body, but most of the time he isn't. He's in the higher dimensions and he never ages.
Right.
So in his energy field, he just constantly uses that energy of regeneration, and that's how he is. He doesn't age, he doesn't deteriorate. He stays in that light body. So I thought, I want to learn how to do that. I don't want to live to 2,000 years old up in the 12th dimension or whatever dimension he's in, but it makes you realize that that's possible to
Energy never
regenerate
dies.
yourself.
Yeah, energy
Yeah,
never.
with that energy. And that's Hindu. Now, that's not to say, like it's really non religious. I'm just talking about frequencies. The Buddhists have their own thing, the Catholics, the Jewish religion, and the Kabbalah and all this. Everybody's got their thing. The Muslims have their thing.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, for me, he was the most, one that made me realize, holy cows, this man is 2,000 years old. He looks like he's 40, and he constantly keeps that youth vibration going. He
Right.
does not age. So again, it's just what else is possible, whether you believe it or you don't.
Yeah.
When I meditate, I connect in with him or Jesus or whatever, the universe, God, all there is, whatever gives me that source energy. And I'm sure for you, how do you connect to source, Firuze, when you think about it?
Well, so we haven't been in touch. I've actually done a bunch of courses doing energy clearing. So that's something that I do, and I do it with myself. I basically connect to source. And like I said, I feel like the source energy, the breath of source, the light of source is getting stronger and stronger every day. I don't feed into what's going on in the news or anything like that. And I basically check with my energy whether something resonates with me or not. I also am very familiar with the Hindu and Sanskrit and so on because I've been studying Vedic astrology for the last 10 years. So yeah, that's how I connect. I'm like you, constantly working, evolving, growing, and I'm sure we will be doing this till the last breath we take. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I, yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, I always felt that I was, I tell this story, I was 3 years old. I was like under my cot. I remember saying to my parents, I want to go home because like I used to hear voices when I was very little. I used to see things, I used to kind of connect to other beings. So it's not foreign to me. And, I started meditating when I was 13. I've worked a lot, with energy work and all these things. That was just part of my path. And I always say I was very, very lucky that
Right.
I was born as a really messed up spirit because that led me to, do all these different things, learn all these different things, and work to evolve. And the reason I do this podcast, because I have a spa business. I also do Vedic astrology, energy work. I've always had my hands in two or three things. But because I felt this was a very, very pivotal time to be of service to humanity. So this is part of how I give.
Mhm.
Um, Sharing, different information, bringing interesting people, especially people in the esoteric field that could share their experience, their knowledge, and so on. Now, what I wanted to speak to you about, because right now out there's a lot of fear that's put in. And how would you talk about how fear basically paralyzes one, and how do you work with that?
Well, the whole thing about fear is, we all have it in our bodies because it's about survival. So it keeps us out of the way of the bus. So you don't want to think, I'm going to get rid of all my fear. No, because you go walk in front of the bus. All right. So what you want to do is transform your fear into courage. So there's a transformational process that I would take somebody through is you want to look at the lower chakras, the first, second, and third chakra. All right, the first is your tailbone. The second is 6 inches below your belly button. That's insecurities from childhood. And the third chakra is your solar plexus, which is your second brain, and it deals with other people's information of how you are and who you should be. And when those things are not aligned with your higher spiritual self and, your highest potential, they're usually all traumatic based on thinking what you've been through in your childhood is real.
Right.
That gets stuck in your subconscious. The subconscious, again, is like 90% of how we function. Our conscious mind can have a desire to let go of the fear, but the subconscious mind is holding on to it.
Right.
So then for me, I can see what happened like at 2 or 3 or in the womb. There's a thing called epigenetics. And epigenetics is actually, they've tracked it, science has tracked it now, that the baby can feel what the mother is feeling in the womb, imprint it, and think that that's reality.
Mhm.
So if the mother's having problems or fear about money or the father's not connecting or whatever, that baby, you, could be feeling all that discombobulation and fear and anxiety about life.
Right.
And nothing to do with you, but everything to do with what your mother is going through.
Right.
And so I'll go right back to that point. If I see it in the person's energy field, in their body or in their field, because I've developed myself, I'm like a Geiger counter now. I can see 25 feet in front of me in terms of people's past lives, in terms of what's going on now, in terms of age ranges in this lifetime and parallel situations. I can actually see that. And so what I do is I move them, have them breathe into it, release it, and then move past that, they clear it, and then I bring in another higher energy and have them imagine something different. 1 second, please. You can edit this, right? So I can imagine something different with them.
Mhm.
That imprints in the cells, and then they start to move into a higher frequency of what else is possible.
Right.
And then from there, they're no longer fear-based, they're courageous. They take, chances. They have bigger visions for themselves. They're not afraid. They're not acting out of a past trauma.
Right.
They're acting out of a present situation where we're aligning them, what else is possible in the present, and then they start to create from that.
Mhm.
Now, that takes skill. I also, if I do meditations or any of my work, I transfer and activate the ability to release that from the cells. I do workshops, I take people to Cabo where they can have these kind of cathartic experiences and then connect with regenerative medicine.
Right.
So I do everything that has to do with getting out of the fear, transforming it into courage, and winding up being a whole higher potential of yourself in physical form, no matter what your age is. You can be 90 years old, you can be 80, you can be 70, doesn't matter. It matters the power of which you present yourself to the world and what else is possible, and how you transcend the fear, transform it into courage and love.
Right.
You see, in the Course of Miracles, they say there's only 2 emotions. One is fear and one is love.
Mhm.
So if you move from fear to love, then it's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
And that's what I work with people to get it into their cells. It's not enough to say, I love myself, I'm so wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And your cells are closed down. You're holding on to trauma of not being good enough, of being rejected, of having anger and resentments. When I think about the ageless factor, we age if we hold on to anger and resentments.
Absolutely.
If you let that go and you move into love and what else is possible, that's when you regenerate yourself. And you can see people that are really old and decrepit, if they're holding on to their, what happened to them in their divorce 30 years ago, their kid that was the worst kid in the world, the money that they lost or whatever,
Right.
they get stuck in that trauma and they keep living the 30-year-old divorce every single day of their life. So yeah, it's a loss, and you suffer and you release it, and then you go, what else is possible? Maybe a whole new relationship,
Yeah.
a whole new life. You lost money. What else is possible? I can create it again, and people do. They reinvent themselves. So that's what keeps you young. And that's what I work with myself every single day,
Yeah.
and all the clients that come to me, and my workshops, and whatever I do online. And my second book,
Right.
The Ageless Factor, is going
When
to
is
be
that
full
coming
of
out?
that.
When is that coming out?
Well, we've got it in the book proposal, and I just realized there's another element that needs to go in.
Okay.
Um, but I would say within the next year or two, it's going to be out,
Mm.
you know, because once it gets to a publisher, it takes them time. And I do want a publisher. I
Right.
don't want to self publish.
Right. Right. Right.
Got too much going on to start self publishing. No.
No, that's fantastic. So one last thing, and I'm sure, but I want to kind of really focus on it. So a lot of people basically are affected by their childhood trauma, and a lot of times trauma that we bring from previous lives
Oh, yeah.
that we're not aware of, because once you're born, you're kind of uh
Right.
what is it? You have no memory of your past life.
But you know what, Firuze? From 1 to 6, past lives will come up.
Hmm.
Something happens at 6, and like that closes down. But I've had situations where kids have actually remembered their past lives,
Hmm.
and they've seen energy and they've done all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it hits to be 6, that's it. The door closes. But, to your point, when I'm doing a session, sometimes I'll look at the person, I'll go, this is not from this lifetime.
Right.
So, for instance, I had this opera singer who was going to open at the Met. All of a sudden, she lost her voice. So
Right.
she came to me, and I said, this is not from this lifetime. And I took her back to the 16th century, back into the 17th. There were times where she was a celebrity and things were going to happen for her. And then the bottom dropped out for her. People got jealous. She died, all that kind of stuff. So she was terrified from those experiences of success to be the success at the Met.
Right.
And she had the shot. And
Yeah.
once I took her through that whole thing, and she had her back seized up, it was horrible. She couldn't sing. She got through it, and she did the performance, and she was amazing.
Yeah.
And she went on to have a really great career. That was from a past life. But you have to be able to, like, I don't go back into past lives unless I see
Right.
that that's the reason why the person is stuck.
Right.
And then I'll bring it into present, and then I'll see if there's anything else
Right.
that's hooked into that goes into that belief system that, oh, if you're successful, you're going to die.
Right.
And a lot of people have that fear. Like, if I have a lot of money, people are going to come and take it away from me, or they're going to kill me. And they might have experienced that in a past life.
Yeah.
And so you let them know this is a whole new reality. In
Well,
this
that's
life,
what I meant by,
yeah,
dealing with fear, because I understand that fear of survival, but there's so many different facets to fear, and how that paralyzes you. It paralyzes you uh, living your fabulous life. It paralyzes you from having the best relationship you have. It paralyzes you really manifesting, what is your God-given. uh,
purpose, passion, and what's supposed to happen.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's why you and I are both dedicated
Yeah.
for us to go past those traumas
Yeah.
and to share it with other people in terms of how to and what you can do and what you can expect.
Yeah.
That's what excites me when somebody comes in and they're all bent into a pretzel, right? And I go, okay, no problem, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Healing, 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 level up. Here's the book, do these things, come back and see me. And then they change, they
Yeah.
transform.
That's fact.
That's the exciting thing in my life. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah. So listen, I would love to continue having these conversations, these wonderful, wonderful revelations from you, but I don't want to keep you because I know you're really busy. But hopefully we can touch base in a few months, and especially when your book comes out.
Yes.
Um, Now, last words of wisdom. What share for our
There's
viewers?
so much, but this is my whole thing. Is I would love for everybody that's listening to this, in the morning, do not grab your phone because your brain is in theta, and theta is creativity. You grab your phone and you start to go into all that, it goes right into beta, and you're in the again. Stay into theta. Say, what other opportunities are going to come into my life today that are going to create magic and miracles? And start to feel that I'm opening myself up to a life of joy, fulfillment, and abundance in all aspects. And bring it on. And when you put yourself into that frequency, that's what starts to happen. And then you go get up, you still don't look at your phone for a few minutes there, and you start feeling it, and then move around a little bit, dance a little bit, and maybe start to pick up your phone and find out. But stay in theta at least for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And before you go to sleep at night, do the same thing. Your brain, it activates at night. It doesn't go to sleep. Or we go to sleep, the brain doesn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
So if you put positive energy, like I have this amazing job and I'm so happy and grateful for what I'm creating in my life, even if it's in the future, for this relationship that's so loving and supportive and connected, even if that person hasn't come into your life yet, start to use appreciation and gratitude, and then all of a sudden it magnifies it. So appreciation and gratitude, but feel it. Don't just say, oh, I'm so happy, blah, 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 blah. Feel it. And then it will start to show up into your life in bigger ways than you could have ever possibly have imagined. So
Well,
those
that's
are my tips.
fantastic. Thank you so much
You're
for
so welcome, and I'm so glad we reconnected.
absolutely. And we have to keep in touch. Thanks again.
Well,
I would like to ask all our viewers if you do enjoy the subjects, and especially this interview, I think is phenomenal. Please do the thumb, show your love, press that subscribe button, and share it with your loved ones, with your family, with friends, anyone that you feel that might enjoy and really benefit from this interview. Thank you so much for being with us. Once again, thanks for being with Coffee with the Kingpins, even though we didn't have coffee today. But
we had a lot of
we love you.
transformational energy.
We love you and thanks again. You can see us on YouTube and Rumble. Thanks again and much love. Thank you.
Much
Thank
love.
you, Alita. Big kiss. Bye. And
You're welcome. Mwah.